Hello and welcome back to the Pit Wall Podcast, where this week we're going to be breaking down the Bahrain Grand Prix, the first race of the season, and it did not disappoint.
We're back, baby. We're finally back. The season is happening. All the talk is over, and now talk can resume.
Our talk can resume.
Before we get into it, just be sure to like, subscribe, follow at the Pit Wall Pod. Today we're going to talk about the lower teams first and work our way up to the front runners, because there's a lot of news specifically about Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and associated people. And actually the race might be the least interesting thing about everything that's going on.
I think
so we might end up flying through the race stuff pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But first, it is time for my first Quali in 60, as much as I don't want to remember qualifying. All right, so I'm going to be a little rusty, so give me like a minute and 5 if I am a little rough here. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. First thing of note is that both Alpines were the bottom, P19, P20. Logan Sargent in P18, not great, more of his usual spot once again. Zhou Guanyu P17, Valtteri Bottas P16, both kick Sauber, Ferrari steak cars down there. Then K-Mag P15, not in the bottom 5. Disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo at P14. Albon, valiant attempt at P13. Lance Stroll, absolute fail at 12. And Yuki barely missing it at 11. Over Nico Hülkenberg getting into 10th place with the slowest car.
Wild.
And Lewis Hamilton right in front of him at P9. Both McLarens lining up next to each other, 7 and 8. Alonso P6. Checo at his usual P5. Carlos Sainz 4. George Russell at 3. Charles Leclerc 2. And Max Verstappen 1. And Charles Leclerc's Q2 time was faster than the pole time of Q3.
Wait, really?
Yes. 100%.
I didn't even realize that.
100% truth. It's going to be hard for you to look up. Oh, wait, I can tell you. It's right here. Let's see.
No, I wasn't looking it up.
Charles Leclerc's Q2 time was a 1:29.165. Max Verstappen's pole time was a 1:29.179. So Leclerc was a full 10 thousandths ahead, which is not that much, but
it is.
Considering it's a different session, the pole lap was not the fastest lap of the qualifying.
That's crazy.
I know, right? So, anyway, with that said, I think qualifying had us all believing, and I still think it's true, that Red Bull is not going to clean sweep the season.
Yeah. I think there's a good chance of more races.
This is not my envelope, but I think they're going to lose 4 to 5 races, which is not bad.
Yeah.
19 other races is a lot. So, who do you want to talk about first towards the bottom of the... Do you want to talk about Williams? Because like a lot of crap happened with Williams.
Yeah.
Right, talk about Logan.
I'll talk about, Sargent. So Sargent had a steering wheel issue, which turned out to be a glitch that shifted the entirety of the brake balance to the front wheels, making him lock up, went off track, was told to retire, and then somehow made it back to the pits, and he continued the race, just finished in dead last. It was very, I was very sad. I was like, there's hope for America. Not today.
Yeah, it was like 35% to 95% or something insane. You could see on the Albon had a similar steering wheel issue, not as bad. We joke about the Williams steering wheel for all these years.
Gosh.
They finally changed it, and it's a huge problem. His brake balance is all over the place. Yeah. So I think we have yet to see. I think that's going to be a theme of this. Is other than Red Bull, we've yet to see the full might of I think any other team except one, which I'll say who I think it is in a minute. Actually two. So Albon did as good as he could. They'll figure it out. Williams just needs a few more races.
For sure.
Do you want to talk about Alpine?
Sure. I am regretting my fantasy lineup right now because I put Ocon in like my driver number 2 position.
Yeah.
And he finished P17. Alpine has crapped the bed this season. They're at least a start. I don't know if they're going to make some huge comeback like McLaren. I doubt it. If Otmar's not there, there's no victory in sight.
Otmar was the problem.
Otmar is the problem.
So Gasly was P18, complete meltdown. The only reason they didn't finish in the bottom two was because the bottom two both had crazy issues, which you just mentioned Logan, and I'll talk about Bottas in a second. Not to mention, Alpine lost all of their key figures, like I think it was their head of aero and vehicle. So basically, in the last 12 months, they've lost everybody. Everybody has changed.
Yeah. There's been replacements everywhere.
I think everybody that was not in the cost cap staff is gone, which is just
wild.
Yeah, and they have all these new investors expecting big things, and it's not good. It is not good. So look for both drivers to be looking for a new place to drive. I have a feeling. So
we're not going to see them there much longer if they keep this up.
So let's talk about Valtteri Bottas and Stake, because I was mentioning him. So he was running a pretty good race, I would say. The Stake looked better than we expected.
Yep.
And then he had a 52-second pit stop and somehow still beat Logan. Because Logan was stopped for even longer, but because they did a steering wheel change for Logan. Yep. So so basically the Alpines finished in the bottom two of the cars that actually had a chance.
Yeah,
and that's bad. And that team that acts like they have a championship mentality or whatever. This is not good. This is not good for Formula One. The way Alpine is.
I agree.
Not that Alpine is the most problematic team right now.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But, it was not good. So, So, and you want to finish?
Yeah. Zhou actually was just out of the points, P11.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Stake car looked decent.
Yeah.
It was just the team that really messed up Bottas.
Yeah.
P11 is not bad at all compared to what we saw last year. I'm hoping this is a consistency at least with Zhou and Bottas. Hopefully the 52-second pit stop isn't a consistency.
So the team said that they actually were very surprised by Zhou and thought that he, in all areas, was better than Bottas this weekend, which is really sad. I'm going to miss Valtteri Bottas if they get rid of him. But who knows? He might find another seat. This is one of those years it's
we're just cruising.
I feel like there's going to be we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the driver market later.
Yeah.
But So let's see, another
Haas.
team. Yeah, so let's talk about Haas.
Magnussen, P12, another shocker to see considering of what we saw in testing and stuff like that. I really did not expect to see them even close to the midfield. So P12 is, I'm sure they were happy about that.
Haas delusion syndrome is alive and well, baby.
I don't know.
P16 for Hulkenberg. But they had the 6th fastest race pace, which is pretty dang good for where we thought they were going to be. They said 10th fastest. They said 10th fastest. And the fact that they were the 6th fastest in this race is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. And they got someone into Q3. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean,
Checo and Lance are leaving 2 free spots. No, I'm just kidding. But I can't believe I just put Checo and Lance in the same category. They're not in the same category.
Thank you for clearing that up.
I'm sorry, Checo. I just spit everywhere. I have to lead the charge. I have to lead the charge of the anti-Checo movement because no one else is on this train with me. I have to lead the charge. Everywhere I go, they're like, give him a break. He's such a nice guy. And I'm like, yeah, I like Checo. I like him as a person. I would totally hang out with him. Super cool guy. Happy times. His family seems awesome. All the stuff that they do in Mexico seems incredible. He has a bunch of charities and stuff. Cool. But he should not be at a top team anymore, all right? He should be in the VCARB.
Hey, you got P2?
Yeah, but you basically just gave it to him.
Well, anyway.
We'll get to it.
Since you were talking about Lance, I'm going to talk about him a little bit because he shocked me. Lance went from dead last at the start of the race after spinning out the first turn, the first lap of the race, and somehow gotten the points at P10.
Incredible.
As much as we crap on him, that's good.
Yeah,
he did a good job.
That's a good race.
Yeah.
But he also had a good Bahrain last year.
That's true.
So Lance, for me, I feel like he always, as much as we give him crap, I feel like if you give him one race, he does a good job. It's like a consistency over the season. A decent job.
Yeah.
Aston Martin does not want to be finishing P9 and P10.
No.
Fernando Alonso finished P9. Aston Martin is one of the two teams that I think showed their full hand.
Yeah.
Aston Martin is not in a good place, not for what they thought. And
Yep.
we were both talking. I think we both agree that they were going to be about fifth fastest.
Yeah.
And I don't see them making any improvements from there. I don't think they're going to. The good news is there's not really anybody punching towards fifth right now because Alpine isn't. I mean, VCARB might, which we'll talk about them in a second. Williams might. It could. It would be a shocker. Other than that, I mean, normally the fifth spot is for Alpine and someone else to fight over, right? So anyway, so I felt like Alonso drove a great race, but only got P9.
Yeah.
And last year was a podium.
Yeah.
So it's not great considering what the other teams were doing. So
For sure.
let's talk about VCARB because they were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
RB. So Yuki, there's basically not a whole lot to talk about except for the one incident that happened between the two of them.
Yeah.
Because how they actually finished is almost irrelevant. It's semi-relevant, but Yuki finished in P14.
Yep.
And they were trying to make an overtake. And Yuki was not able to get this overtake done it was K-Mag, right?
Yep.
Okay. So they were not able to get this overtake on K-Mag, and they were looking like they might actually have a chance at points for like half a second. And they tell Yuki to let Daniel Ricciardo by, and he doesn't. And then he yells on the radio, and then they finally do, but it's too late. And it might have been too late when they decided already.
Yeah, I think it was.
And I'll let you tell your opinion on it in a second. And then at the end of the race, because of all this, and Yuki was very upset. Oh, and apparently they had discussed this ahead of the race.
Mm-hmm.
Yuki tries to dive bomb Daniel Ricciardo in the cooldown lap. And all I have to say is, Yuki, if you want a Red Bull seat, it doesn't matter if you think you're right or wrong. You gotta show.
Just say yes.
They might have even engineered this. This is my conspiracy theory. My conspiracy theory for this is that they intentionally did something stupid to see if Yuki would comply. So that way, when eventually he has to let Max Verstappen by, he'll do it. Anyway, tell me about Daniel Ricciardo.
He got P13, pretty much like you had said. I'm just going to talk about VCARB itself for a second because testing really gave me some delusion.
VCARB delusion syndrome.
Exactly. And maybe they were the only ones not sandbagging for testing because like we said, fifth fastest to now like P13 and 14. Like, come on.
See, and they were
Don't
saying
give me
they were
hope.
like they kept saying we're not that fast. We're not that.
Yes,
we're
they did.
telling you we're not there yet. We're not ready. They're right. That they were.
Yes,
but they were better than AlphaTauri was at the start of last year. 100%.
Oh, for sure.
The last year AlphaTauri was in Alpine
Yeah.
land. Well, okay, no, McLaren was, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
I still have a little bit of hope for him.
I do too. I have complete faith that I think they can win a race. I still think they're going to win a race. Maybe
Okay.
in a crazy scenario, I just feel like
It could happen.
they're the team that picks up a crazy race. Win.
Monza.
Yeah. They're the team that picks up the crazy race win.
That's true. That's true.
How do you feel about Danny Rick and Yuki? Do you think that was just a one-off, or do you think it's going to be a continuing story?
It feels like it could be a constant thing because Yuki was the guy. Ricciardo came in. Now he's the guy for VCARB.
Yep.
Like they're going to pro him for sure.
And Yuki's not going to like that.
Not at all.
Nope.
Because he's been there for what, 3 years now, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And he's not going to like that at all.
Yeah. So, it remains to be seen what that's going to happen with that. So, next up, I guess let's talk about McLaren.
Yep.
So, McLaren is the other team that I think showed their full hand.
Yeah.
I, again, was not on the McLaren hype train as much as everybody else was because I didn't really know what Ferrari was doing, but I just had a feeling that Mercedes was going to be faster than them.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about Mercedes in a second, but Mercedes had a pretty bad race and still beat them. And that's where I'm kind of like, yeah, it might be over. Now, they didn't both. Lando did beat Lewis.
Yep.
But it was only by a couple seconds. And only, but in a race,
Yeah.
Anyway, so Lando got P6. Yeah, Lando got P6. And, I think they had a terrible Bahrain last year. They say Bahrain doesn't suit them. They've been saying their real first races this week. So maybe they haven't shown their full hand, but I just kind of feel like this is around where they're going to be.
Yeah. I think they have a little bit of improvement left in them,
Okay.
at least in the next few weeks. I think by the end of the season, I have a feeling that they'll be competitive, not with Red Bull, but at least with like Ferrari.
Okay.
Anyway, Piastri was P8. And I actually, for being P8, I actually think he had a great race.
Yeah.
Because it was probably the best tire management I've seen from him, like, since he started in Formula One.
Right.
It was really great. And I don't know. My prediction of him winning a race before Lando is I didn't really think about it. But then I remembered that Red Bull is also in that situation, and it might not be this year. But we'll see. Anything can happen.
We will see. So let's talk about Ferrari, because then the real meat of this, the best thing about all this drama that we're about to talk about is it's just back in the Mercedes Red Bull. That's what's so sweet about it, is the Mercedes Red Bull drama is in full. It's alive and well.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, Ferrari. So they had a Ferrari race a little bit. They had trouble during the beginning of the race. They weren't really keeping up pace. Leclerc ended up in a P4. Did not get a podium or anything. But I think my analysis of it, and I've seen some similar things, they're not really saying what happened. It's either one of these two things, and it could be both, or it could be either of them. I think the Ferrari either can't run heavy, but I don't think that's the case, because they ran a lot of race simulations and tests.
Yeah.
I think it can't follow. And that used to be a big problem before these regulations, is cars being able to follow. That's the reason these regulations exist. For better or for worse, I've seen a lot of people recently pointing out that these were bad regulations, not just because of Red Bull, but other reasons.
Yeah.
They're really confusing regulations. So I think they might have a following problem, but also it got better throughout the race, but maybe they had more gap between them, or maybe the fuel did contribute to it. Anyway, point is, that is not an easy problem to fix.
Yeah.
That is not an easy problem to fix. But they did have to turn, they said they were losing like 0.4 a lap towards the beginning of the race. So if they're able to fix that, that is a competing for second and towards the beginning of the race competing with Max situation.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, Ferrari's going to win a race this year. That's why I'm like, I'm pretty sure. Okay. I think Monza,
I think it could happen.
Anyway, so how was Carlos's race?
It was great, honestly. He got a podium. He's P3, and he put himself first this race instead of the team. He did. He is trying to show himself to other teams, and he did just that this weekend. Overtook Charles twice and George, I think, at the end. Yeah, or not.
At one point.
Yeah. Brought home a podium. I think that's going to be great for his stock for the next year.
It was tense, man. Their battle, they were so close. It wasn't Monza last year close.
They could have taken each other out.
Dude, that Drive to Survive, that's the best part of Drive to Survive this season, I thought, is when they show all the angles of oh my gosh. I remember feeling it at the time, but at the time, I mean, I don't hate obviously I'm going to be like a semi-Ferrari fan, but I was like kind of laughing because I was like, these guys are going to crash. These guys are going to crash. They're just going to be on the podium. That's what I was thinking, at Monza last year. But yeah, I thought Sainz drove probably the best race out of anybody.
Yeah.
So, anyway, with that said, we've arrived at Mercedes Red Bull. So I'll just briefly go over what's going on with Mercedes. I think Red Bull, specifically about the race, you don't have as much to say race wise. Mercedes, so they had engine cooling issues. And they've literally, as of today, the day we're recording this, have come out and said they figured it out. So that's big.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
They said that they were losing. George said 0.5. Toto said 0.6. Let's just say it's 0.5.
Yeah.
A lap because they had to turn their engine all the way down. with that said, once again, that is a team that's not shown their full potential yet, and that is another big number where they could be fighting at the front potentially, especially if Red Bull does something, they have a slow stop, just something like that. So, and their car looked much more stable, so those are the positives. Their finishing positions were not great because of that, and it was very disappointing because George started P6, started P3, finished P5, Lewis started P9 and finished P7. There's a lot of despair because Mercedes had an amazing Friday, and we were like joking in our group chat. I knew this was going to happen. I knew something was going to happen, especially our Mercedes qualifying pace is always just a thing.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's going to be. I think maybe this weekend they're going to look better, and then after that it's on. I think we could have at least a closer battle, especially with Checo. I think especially with Checo.
Oh yeah,
Max.
You'll at least
him
have
and this car are like the same person.
Yeah.
Also, Lewis's seat broke in the middle of the race. Couldn't find out why. I assume it's just a bumps thing.
Yeah.
So they're not really saying why. So, but he's fine. Luckily, unlike Baku or something in 2022, when his Baku almost broke his back. So, anyway, yeah, not the best race for Mercedes, but again, another team. So I think Ferrari Mercedes is going to be very interesting this year. And like I said, so far my Ferrari being strong at the beginning and then falling off predictions looking pretty good. So after one race. So also as a side note, because of our new point system, we're tied after this race.
We are tied.
Like instead of you destroying me already, probably. So anyway, how was Red Bull's race?
Gonna keep it short, like you said. Max P1, a near perfect weekend. Checo, not so much. Got P2, so I mean it was a great finish to the weekend, but qualifying is just still his. I mean, it's his enemy.
P5 looked like the best he could have done.
Yeah. There was nothing more he could have gotten out of that car or himself for qualifying, but he at least got P2, so I got a 1-2 for Red Bull. I'm sure everybody's happy about that.
Yeah, everybody's happy about that.
Everybody on the Red Bull side of things is happy.
So
the news about Red Bull.
Why don't you tell me that? Because I have a lot of things to say. Break down what's happening right now.
Okay, we have much going on, and it all derives from Christian Horner.
And I just want to be clear. We're going to talk about this a little informally. I am writing a video to shoot this weekend about like
everything that's
the facts only about. So, and I'm sorry, I'll shut up. I know.
No, you're good.
We're gonna. No matter what we say during this, I'm just going to say we're treating this Christian Horner topic very sensitively because it is a very sensitive issue because it's very unclear what is true and what is not true. So take everything with a grain of salt. Go ahead.
Allegedly, and has said to have been, the investigation is done. Horner had some problems with I forgot the term they used for it, but basically it was just messaging someone within the Red Bull team very provocatively and asking for pictures and stuff like that. There were pictures released of the text messages, which are still under investigation, I'm sure, of like whether they're doctored or not.
Yeah.
But the original investigation came out saying that he was clear. And so everybody is telling him basically to step down from the team principal spot or just from Red Bull in general. And he's saying no. And because of that, a lot of people are going to leave, more than likely.
And also the Red Bull CEO thought he was going to be fired back on February 2nd.
Yeah.
So he somehow refused his own firing somehow. He sent lawyers or something to do it. It was
basically like an unjust firing. Like the reason they wanted to was not just because he was cleared from allegations based on Red Bull's investigation.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
I have no clue. I think it was like, I mean, obviously don't know anything about law, where they're at and stuff like that, but it was probably a thing of like, hey, this investigation isn't done yet. If you fire me and it's wrong, maybe he could then sue them for unjust, termination of employment, something like that.
Also, at one point, he apparently reportedly tried to like stage a coup and buy Red Bull at one point.
I saw that, yeah.
What is going on?
Like, so he said he's staying.
So if Christian Horner stays,
which I think he's going to. I don't think he's going to back down. He's put too much into Red Bull, I think. Adrian Newey, Max Verstappen, and a lot of other key people in the Red Bull scene are gone.
Saying they're going to leave.
Yes, this is rumored that they have talked to people and said, we're not happy with being on the same team as him. I've heard about Adrian Newey going to, what's it called?
Hypercar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to Hypercar, and then I forgot the other team I had seen rumored.
Ferrari.
Yeah, Ferrari.
Yeah.
And Max, we don't know for sure, but how do you say his name? Jos Verstappen,
his dad,
which is his dad, was seen talking to Toto.
And seen having a argument with Christian Horner in Bahrain.
His dad has come out saying he's not happy about this, like about the Horner stuff. And Max listens to his dad.
Yes, he
majority
does.
of the time. And if he says you don't need to be here, we're going to Mercedes, he'll probably go to Mercedes, because when Mercedes talked to Sainz recently, when there a picture of Toto and Sainz together?
It was Toto and Checo. I'm sure Sainz talked to him as well.
No, maybe it was. It was
Checo, but I think Sainz's dad.
I thought I'd seen a picture of Sainz talking to Toto.
And Sainz's dad also talked to Christian Horner. All these drivers that are out of contract are talking to each other, so it's all, you know.
I think if his dad tells him, "Hey, you don't need to be here anymore," he's leaving.
Yeah.
And apparently that could be a possibility to go to Mercedes. And if that is the case, it's going to be tough, because then me and Nick are going to be wearing matching outfits on the podcast.
I'll wear a Ferrari hat.
I mean, I'm still going to support Red Bull. It's just, I mean, when I started watching Formula One, I had to be a Red Bull fan, and Max is winning. So it just became my favorite driver.
Yeah. People are going to hate you for saying
that.
You know what? It's fine. All right. It's fine.
I have a legitimate reason, okay?
Yeah. You don't need to explain. There's other reasons why you're a Red Bull fan other than just Max. Shut up in the comments. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Max going to Mercedes?
Well, there's a few more things I want to add, and then I'll talk about that. Because I honestly haven't really thought too much about it, like in terms of it actually happening. Mm-hmm. So I think the key reason that all of these dominoes is a domino effect because of Ford, I think, is the key other part of it. So Ford is the only one that we for sure know is considering pulling out, because they've put out a statement saying they're like, we're a family company. These are not family values. We're done with this. So I genuinely think all of this is conjecture, but I genuinely think that the only thing that is definitely going to happen is that if Christian Horner stays, Ford is pulling out.
Oh, for sure.
And if that happens, Red Bull has no engine in 2026.
This this would just be a collapse of Red Bull.
I know. So here's the thing. There's a lot of theories about, like, how much is Ford really doing?
Yeah.
Because Honda's been weird with Red Bull, because they were like, they came back to the sport and built them an engine, and then they said they weren't going to do it anymore, but then they were Honda again. Like they went back and forth because there was Red Bull powertrains that came up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, is Ford just like a white label for Red Bull powertrains, or they just kind of like send in like 5 people in to kind of just run it, or were they taking over? Like, it's kind of it's kind of hard to tell, but so it's crazy. So, but it makes sense why, and here's where I get into my thoughts about Max.
Yeah.
Max going to Mercedes, I know I'm a Mercedes fan, but it makes a lot of sense. Okay? So Ferrari's off the table.
Yeah.
That takes off one team. McLaren also off the table. Yeah. Not that he would go to McLaren anyway, but let's just
I don't think
just for theory. So who's left? Mercedes, okay? I mean, maybe under some crazy scenario.
Yeah.
Which I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm just saying maybe Ferrari for like a half second would consider kicking Leclerc. But they would not want Lewis and
I don't think they would put Lewis and Max together.
I don't think so either. I'm just saying, like, I'm just covering all my bases for why Mercedes makes sense. So you don't think I'm just being a bandwagon here, because I'm actually not sure if I'm happy about this. I should be as like a fan of the sport, but like, I don't know. I just have so many emotions about this. So, but Mercedes adjusts best to engine regulation changes out of any team. They struggled a little at the beginning of this, but obviously the whole reason they dominated for the beginning of this whole change is because of 2014, they built the best engine, and it was crazy. I mean, they were ahead by like 3 seconds at the end of the first lap. Yeah. Like, insane stuff. And everybody's anticipating that these 2026 regulations favor Mercedes the best out of what's currently going on.
Yeah.
So, and especially if Red Bull doesn't have an engine, this is the team to go to.
Yeah.
It's the time to do it too, because, okay, Max Verstappen is going to win his 4th this year. It's going to happen unless something crazy happens. Now, all this Red Bull stuff, they could drop the ball and make bad strategic decisions. They could mess up developments because Adrian Newey leaves mid-season potentially, and they could fall off and lose. It's possible. But right now, there's no reason why that Max has any reason why he shouldn't win his 4th this year.
Yeah.
So let's just say he does. He's probably going to sacrifice what might be a guaranteed win next year. Might, without Adrian Newey, who knows?
Yeah.
Might be a guaranteed win next year. And to secure 5 championships with Mercedes or something. So with that said, it makes too much sense.
Yeah.
It makes too much sense for him not to be very seriously considering it.
Summer break's going to be a fun one.
And the fact that we're sitting here after the first race and that the most likely person that is going to Mercedes is Max Verstappen.
It's a little wild, isn't it?
So, like, are you going to keep pulling for Max?
Yeah.
You're going to pull from a Mercedes? Oh, my God. That's crazy, bro. So, I'm excited. The only reason I'm excited is because there's that little sliver of window in 2025 where maybe it's like
a real championship
what is going
battle.
on with me right now? Like, I'm going to be pulling for Mercedes to be slightly worse than Ferrari for 1 year so Lewis can get his 8th because I just need it.
Yeah.
Unless I'm pulling for Lewis.
You could get
I'm pulling for Lewis in any situation over everybody else.
Yeah, you can let them get the drivers' championship. Let Mercedes get the constructors. Yeah.
Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah,
I just whatever it takes to get a Max Lewis battle again.
Yeah,
you saw my tweet. I saw you like it, but I said Time Traveler goes back to 2022 and says, "Hey, listen, Mercedes fans, I know that you're upset that you're not getting a Max Lewis rematch, but don't worry." In 2025, you'll get one, and it'll involve Ferrari. And they're like, oh, wow. Max Verstappen goes to Ferrari? I didn't see that coming. Well, you're not going to believe this. But actually, the other thing that's just hard to believe about this is that Toto's a smart and a good businessman. So he would put his emotions aside. But it's hard to imagine him fully putting it all aside from what happened in 2021.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, there's probably nights that he laid up just angry as all get out with Max.
Yeah.
Just all night. Like, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he did that. Like, probably after Monza when they crashed and almost killed Lewis. It was kind of a mutual thing, but, Max got the penalty. So, yeah. I mean, what are the chances that you think this happens right now?
It all depends on Horner.
But you think Horner's staying.
I think Max would go to Mercedes. It's the only championship contending team.
Yeah.
Like when you look at Red Bull and Mercedes, you see championships. When you look at Ferrari, you don't.
So
unless Red Bull's consistency is out of the equation, which might happen if Ford pulls out.
Yeah.
So that it's really, like you said, it's just a domino effect. If Horner stays, Ford pulls out, Mercedes grabs Max, Lewis goes to Ferrari, which is already set in stone,
which is crazy.
and then there's a huge battle on our hands,
dude.
But that's the thing. What would Red Bull do then?
So Red Bull will be out of it, I guess. So okay. So who's Red Bull? All right. So in this scenario, so those are the drivers. All right. So Max is at Mercedes. God, I can't. Just seeing a picture of him in that race suit is just like, oh my gosh, like how is this happening?
It's weird.
Also, the complaining that he's gonna do.
Oh yeah.
Also, GP is their lead trackside engineer right now. He's not just Max's engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got to make a decision.
Yeah.
They live in the same country, so it's a little easier. But all right. So who do you think's at Red Bull? All right, Max is gone. Who's there?
Red Bull?
Yeah. What happens?
I mean, if Max is gone, I think they're doing a complete restructure. They're getting rid of Checo. They're going to bring in Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo.
Okay. Curveball. Fernando Alonso.
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Even though that makes everybody's going to be like, why didn't they do that? It's like They got it's like we use the Bulls as an analogy a lot. But this is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
They're breaking up the team, and they're going to try and do a rebuild and build it around Daniel Ricciardo, because at least Daniel Ricciardo is like can be the face, especially since Christian Horner won't be able to. It gets weird where if Max leaves and Christian Horner's gone somehow, because like Max is probably going to leave because Ford might pull out of it before.
If Ford pulls out of it, Max is probably gone. Even if Horner leaves as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's this. So then it gets weird because Christian Horner is the biggest advocate of Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Yeah.
So do they pull Ricciardo? Do they pull Yuki? Like,
no, I don't think they.
So you think they're gonna pull? They're gonna put Lawson in
100%
at the first start is his.
Yes.
I mean, he raced enough races, I feel like, but what's Lawson's contract like?
Yeah.
How long is he required to stay with Red Bull? Because like this, this gets super crazy because like this involves VCARB. Like, are they going to end up having to sell this team? Because VCARB's not going to have an engine either.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that's the thing is Red Bull could freaking clean sweep the next year as well, and then have no engine and be the last team on the grid because they'll be forced. No one will sell to them. Mercedes is not going to sell them. Ferrari's not going to sell them, so they'll be forced to take Alpine's engine. That's how it works. If they can't get an engine, Alpine's engine is the worst. And if Alpine is even going to survive, like it's just this is why we waited to the end to talk about this because we knew it was going to go off on a deep end.
This explosion that's about to happen in the F1 community is going to, I feel like, change a lot. And I feel like it's going to come out on the better side, though.
This is now the season storyline.
Yeah.
Period. There's nothing crazier that can happen in this. Unless, some crazy world event
Unless
happens.
Mercedes, goes crazy on upgrades and ends up winning a championship.
That would still not even be as big of a story.
Probably not, actually.
It would not be as big of a story.
Yeah.
Because then Max would go for sure. You know what I'm saying?
That's true,
Max would still be the bigger story
That's
out of
true.
this.
Because Lewis would be leaving a championship-winning team, and Max would be taking over.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine that? If Lewis wins this year, Lewis wins the championship, and then goes, "Here you go, Max. Here's your seat." Can you understand
The
what
pain.
that would feel like?
Yeah.
That would hurt.
You'd have the highest of highs
and the lowest.
of the lowest.
Not to mention Adrian Newey right now is tinkering around with the zero pod design and could just walk over to Mercedes if he wants to.
You're like, this is what you need to improve.
That's
Done.
the thing, though. I think Mercedes is the one team that would not hire him because they have James Allison and they trust James Allison. They have no reason not to. He built the fastest F1 car of all time.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying I think he's better necessarily than Adrian Newey. I'm just saying. But Ferrari, on the other hand,
they could use him.
2026 could be Lewis's year, man.
Yeah.
Fastest Ferrari car. Ooh.
That would be crazy.
Anyway, so, that's basically where we can leave it for now because there is no news. I just want to say that we are recording on Tuesday, March 5th at 5:28 p.m. Central American time because anything could happen.
Yep.
By the time I post this video, Christian Horner could be fired. Max Verstappen could have signed a contract with Mercedes.
Yep.
Adrian Newey could have grown more hair. And, so that literally anything could happen. So every video that you see from here on out, just know this is the most up-to-date information we have. We haven't even checked Twitter in 30 minutes. Who knows what happened?
That's true.
Oh, also
every time I open Twitter now, it's some brand new thing in Formula One that's just like,
yeah. And the last little bit of news is that our wonderful FIA president, who honestly I've had a bad vibe about him for a while.
yeah,
again, allegedly, fixed Fernando Alonso's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix result last year. Remember, that was the thing where they were handing the trophies back and forth between Alonso and George, right? Was that race where Alonso and George?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, and that's going to cause him to drop in the championship if they revert it, which they could. And then, you know what can of worms that's going to open? Oh, you can change a race result? Huh. Yeah, it's going to open a whole can of worms.
that's gonna be bad.
Yeah, so you know what? Either way, Mercedes is going to end up with the driver that had the 2021 World Championship at their as their driver. So I also think there's a little bit of Max that wants to go and win in a. I think he wants a challenge. I think he's going to enjoy this year's like a victory lap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw him at the end of the race. He killed like 15 seconds by leaving. Which, by the way, I think should have been a penalty. But okay, so he allegedly fixed that. Then he also apparently tried to kill off the Vegas Grand Prix by not approving it for safety or something, which I'm sure Liberty Media will just be real happy about considering they own that race. So, yeah, I don't think the future is bright for FIA president. So that's not good. Also, apparently he asked Max Verstappen to come out publicly and support Christian Horner twice, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So, and he said maybe you should open up an investigation. That's crazy because I always thought Christian and Max were like this.
Yeah.
But and then the last thing is where it goes even deeper, which is the original rumors were that Jos Verstappen started all of this and all of this is fake anyway.
Yeah.
Which is just like, why would he want to tear down Red Bull? But if he hates Christian Horner that much, I don't know. Maybe he knows something. Maybe he knows that Mercedes is going to be the fastest in 2026, and he needs a reason that looks logical for Max to go to Mercedes other than just up and leaving. Because can you imagine if this team was happy and peachy and all of a sudden it was Max Verstappen goes to Mercedes in 2025?
Man.
At least we have a warning. Like now if it happens, we're going to be like, but it won't be like cold turkey like Lewis was.
Yeah.
Because Lewis at Ferrari was like, I woke up and I was like, what? So
that was a shocker, man. Jesus.
Okay. Give me your winner and loser. We've been recording forever at this point. Give me your winner and loser.
Let's see. Winner Sainz.
Yep.
Good race. Loser VCARB.
Oh, okay.
VCARB. I think that they started some drama that's gonna consist throughout the season.
Okay. Well, my loser is Alpine.
Yeah.
Because they're the worst team.
Yep.
Which is hilarious, honestly. I mean, I feel bad for them, but I feel bad for the drivers, not the team management. I'm not a fan of their CEO.
Yeah.
Winner, I'm going to give it to F1 Twitter because
that's a good winner.
You know what? If Max wins all 24 races, it's still going to be interesting this year. That's for sure. Because it has been 4 days since the race. All hell has broken loose since then. So I'm sure tomorrow because the race is on Saturday this week, once again, when they have their media day tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of questions that go unanswered.
Yeah. And I'm sure that by the time we post our next video or by the time you post that video you're wanting to do, we'll probably have something big, some new stuff.
I mean, genuinely, if this is all made up and Horner didn't do anything, I mean, that sucks.
Yeah,
that really
for
sucks.
sure.
But it just really seems like something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a theory, but I'm not going to lay it out because it's not fair to speculate on this level of stuff. But it's just. But you know what, Mercedes fans, we deserve this. We deserve turmoil, whether it be for a good reason or not. Because you know what, if Red Bull's going to win everything, at least they're going to have to deal with some crap. Because we've had to, and it's going to be okay. I'll stop. But anyway,
the crap wasn't a Class A lawsuit, though.
Hey, who's the real winners at the end of all of this? If we got Max Verstappen, we stole him.
You,
the crown jewel. Yes, me personally has Max Verstappen. Anyway, so this would be the Mercedes fanboy podcast from now on.
God.
You realize if Max goes, you got to come dressed head to toe Mercedes stuff for the first episode.
Yeah, I know.
Season.
I know.
Head to toe.
I know.
Head to toe. It's okay. Also, you've listened to me babble enough about it. Just remember, James Allison is your dad, and everything will be okay.
I mean, Max is my dad.
Well, Max's dad is your grandfather then.
I think that's enough for today.
Thank you for watching.
Follow us online at the Pitwall Pod on all socials, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Peace.